Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube videos on the topic of discrete time Markov chain. So in this video I'm going to give you an example of application of something we saw previously about Chapman-Kolmogorov equation, and we saw that from those equations we can prove that the n-step transition probabilities can be computed using the nth power of the transition matrix. So we are going to apply this in a concrete example to see how it works in practice. So more precisely, in our example, we are going to assume that on a certain road, so every 10 cars is independently followed by a truck, and that at the opposite, 4 of every 5 trucks is independently followed by a car. And the goal is going to be to compute the probability that the third vehicle following you is a truck in case you are driving a car. So more or less what this means is that we want to find some kind of 3-step transition probabilities because of third vehicle after you. So 3-step transition probability from car to truck. That's kind of what we want to do. And so let's go to write those equations to see how it works concretely. So to solve our problem, the first thing we need is to define a Markov chain, a discrete time Markov chain. Except that I'm using the word discrete time Markov chain, while here in this problem there is no temporal structure. So typically we think of Markov chain as some processes describing something that evolves in time, and so in this case in discrete time there is the same kind of object in continuous time, but here apparently there is no temporal structure in the problem. So that's one first observation I want to make. It's the fact that this notion of time, basically when we write xn to define a Markov chain, we think of n as time n. In fact, this notion of time is just convenient, and that's indeed the case that n represents time in most of the cases we study. But because we are mathematicians and mathematics is very abstract, we can think of n as whatever we want. And so in this case, n is instead going to describe space, in fact, because instead of having a sequence of random events happening in time, with each event depending only, the probability of an event depending only on the previous one, here instead we are going to have a sequence of objects, so in this case cars and trucks in space, okay? But it doesn't matter, the concept of discrete time Markov chain still work to describe what we want. So in this case, because we are talking about the position of cars and trucks on the highway, it kind of makes sense to call xn the type of, let's say, vehicle, the type of vehicle number n on the highway. So what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to think of now this horizontal axis not as time but as the road. Let's say that going to the right is the direction of the traffic, and let's say that maybe you have vehicle n is here, and then n plus 1 is here, the one following n, okay? Following n, if the traffic goes this way, it's going to be located here, maybe that's n plus 2, and maybe n plus 3 is somewhere here, and so on, okay? So that's the position of the cars and trucks on the road. And our Markov chain is going to be able to solve the problem. We basically introduce the Markov chain that keeps track of the type of vehicle along the road. So that would be basically xn is the type of vehicle n. Okay? And so this means that the state space in this case, we don't have to use numbers to describe the state space, we can use letters. It's a set, it can be anything. So in this case, that kind of makes sense to assume that S is just the 2 letters C and T, C for car and T for truck. So let's define the state space like that. So it's C and T. And and so now what we want to do is write the transition probabilities of this Markov chain. So how is it going to help? Well, if you look carefully at the question is assuming that you are driving a car. So let's say that you are at position N on the road and you are in a car. Then what is the probability that the third vehicle following you is a truck? So it's the probability that this one here is a truck. So we want to basically compute the probability that xn plus 3 is equal to t, given that xn is equal to c. That's a three-step transition probability that we can compute from the transition matrix. So step one is going to be to find the transition probabilities and put them in a transition matrix. So in this case, the transition probabilities are obvious. So we can go from C to C, and the prime says that 90% of the cars are followed by a car. So here, this should be a 9/10. And then it says also that that 1/5 of the trucks are followed by a truck. So this transition is 1/5. And so of course the transition from C to T or T to C are easy to deduce, that just 1 minus those probabilities. If you don't go from C to C, then that means you go from C to T. So the transition from C to T is 1/10, and the transition from T to C should be 4/5. Okay? Notice that in the poem, I use the word independently followed by. This word independently is important. It means that the type of this guy here only depends on this one and not on what was before on the road, or not on the past, basically. So that's because I use this word independently of that indeed we have a Markov chain. So from that we can write our transition matrix. So the matrix P is going to be, so if we call C and T the two states in this order and C and T here, then the transition matrix is going to be, well, here you have the transition from C to C, that's 0.9. Then from C to T, you have a 0.1. Then from T to T, that's this coefficient, it's 1/5, it's 0.2. And here we need a 0.8. So notice that the structure of the transition matrix is basically, we call that a stochastic matrix. That means that if you add up coefficients along the same row, you should obtain 1. Okay, that's a stochastic matrix. That's normal that we obtain this structure because these are the terms of a probability mass function, so they should add up to 1. Now to answer the question, so we don't need those transition probabilities anymore. To answer the question, the next thing we need to do is basically compute the probability. So let me write this at the bottom instead. So what we want to do is compute the probability that xn plus 3 is equal to t, given that xn equals c. So using the notation we used in a previous video, then we can rewrite that as a three-step transition probability from C to T. So this is equal to P3 C T. And we saw that by using the Kolmogorov or the Chapman-Kolmogorov equation, we were able to prove that this three-step transition probability is in fact equal to the coefficient Ct of the matrix P cube. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use here. So in fact, this is equal to P cube Ct. So this is the object we want to compute. So that's not the point, that's just purely linear algebra. That's not really the point of of my videos to teach you about linear algebra and product of matrices, but still I'm going to do it for at least p-square to show you how it works. This can be overwhelming, okay? Even for just a cube, that's already a lot of calculation. And this technique has some limitation. And like I said in a previous video, the fact that the n-step transition probabilities can be computed from the nth power of the matrix is something that is extremely useful in theory, and we can prove theorems using that. But this has limitation in practice, meaning that you can only indeed get the result if your state space is not too big and if the power you are looking at is not too high. So in this case, just to remind you how we compute the product of matrices, so to compute p-square, you are going to write your matrix that way here, and then you have a 0.8, 0.2. Sorry, this should not be here. And then you can rewrite the matrix you want to multiply with here. So here it's again the same, 0.9, 0.1, 0.8, 0.2. And then to compute both coefficients, so to compute a coefficient here, you just look at what we call the scalar product of this vector by this vector, okay? So in this case, I'm going to use another trick that you can use yourself when you want to compute like square or cubes of matrices by hand. You see that it's probably easier to multiply this row by this column to get this coefficient. So it's just this, let's say 9.9 times 1 is 9, 9 plus 2. So that gives you an 11, but I have a 0 point before, so that's a 0.11 here, okay? But then it turns out that this square of the matrix P should again be a stochastic matrix. So why is it a stochastic matrix? Well, you can prove it in general. Okay, if you look at the product of if you look at the square of a stochastic matrix, you get again a stochastic matrix. But you can also see from the interpretation here, we saw last time that P at the power n, the interpretation of the coefficients in the matrix P at the power n are the n-step transition probabilities. So again, because these represent probabilities, the sum of all the coefficients along the same row should add up to 1, which means that you don't even need to compute like 0.9 times 0.9 plus 0.1 times 0.8. You know that those two numbers should add up to 1, so you should get a 0.89. And so for the second row, I'm going to use the same idea. I have 8 plus 4, that's 12, so it's a 0.12 here, and here we should have a 0.88. Okay, so that gives you your matrix P square. Then you need one more step to get P cube. I'm going to use my note to write the answer. So I guess that any computer can do this, but so eventually you find that P cube is equal to 0.889, and then you have a 0.111 and 0.888 and a 0.112. So going back to our problem here, we want to find, so remember that this is the order in which we put our states. So the transition from C to T, three times step, is going to be this number here, okay? Row C, column T, so that's this number, and this is our answer. The answer is 0.111. So that concludes our example. That's just answering the question. Now, before I stop the video, I wanted to point out something else also, is that if you look at the matrix P cube, you notice that those two numbers are pretty close to each other, and same for those two ones. In fact, if you increase the power, it turns out that all the coefficients on this column are going to converge to the same value, same for those ones. And it's typically also the case if you look at bigger matrices. That's a consequence of some theoretical consideration I'm going to explain after, but typically you can prove that there are conditions under which your Markov chain is going to converge to what we call a stationary distribution. And in fact, the terms you see here is basically the coefficient of the stationary distribution that appear. But I also mentioned that computing a matrix P at the power, let's say n in general, if n is large and if P is not just a 2 by 2 matrix, it can become extremely complicated. And so we'll see in future videos that in fact you can indeed extract those numbers, like, you know, like this P at the power n is going to converge to a limiting matrix, and you can obtain those numbers without even having to compute P at the power n. So that's something a little bit tricky that follows from the theory that I will mention in a few videos. And that's it for today.